Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Let me know if you can see me and hear me in the chat. I am so excited to be here today. I'm Jeannine, Head of Product Education and Strategy, and of course, your host for today's session. So nice to see all of you. Elizabeth, Jessica, Angelique, hi, Emily, hi, Sandy, Mina. Nice to see everyone. I hope you are excited because today's masterclass, Sun Smarts plus SPF equals healthy skin. Now, I'm sure this is a topic you all are very familiar with, but it's one that we can never talk about enough. Also with me, I have Sue. Everybody say hi to Sue, joining as moderator. She's going to be kind of managing everything for us behind the scenes. We're always so fortunate when we have her. So whether you are watching this live or via replay on YouTube, please feel free to ask questions related to this session in the chat and the comments. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that I am passionate about, protecting your skin. So it's probably no surprise, I've worked in the industry a really long time, over 20 years, maybe 25 years. And I can tell you that this is one of the most important skincare topics to be educated on and to implement in your everyday routine. And I should say it is applicable for everyone, regardless of your age, regardless of your skin type. Every single person can benefit. Now, I'm often asked, and today I am going to share kind of questions kind of in that format and answer those, but I am often asked, what is the best overall product for anti-aging or prevention? And I bet you can guess the answer. Without doubt, the number one product is SPF. I do have 3 desert island products. Vitamin C, retinol, SPF, but SPF would absolutely be number one. Tell me in the comments, what are your desert island products? Now I'm just curious to know. And what would you say is your number one product? We can all be honest and tell, but maybe today I'll change your mind if SPF is not number one. So this is a master class, which means we're going to talk about everything that you need to know. I'm going to start at the beginning. You know that I love to mix a little bit of science, some facts, and of course, we're going to talk about product suggestions as well. And so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm seeing a few of your comments. I appreciate the honesty. And listen, I think we've all been there at some point when SPF may not be the number one product, right? So starting at the beginning, what does SPF stand for? If you know, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Sun protection factor. So sun protection factor, SPF, which is a measure of how well the sunscreen protects your skin from the sun and from sunburn, right? So that's SPF. Have you ever wondered what the number behind SPF means? So if you have, I'm going to tell you. The number behind it actually tells you how long it would take the sun's UVB rays. We're going to talk about rays in just a minute, but it tells you how long it would take the sun's UVB rays to give your skin a sunburn if you apply sunscreen exactly as directed versus not using anything at all. So for instance, I always like examples, so I'm going to give you one. Let's say that you're applying SPF 30 and you're following the directions, you're applying it correctly. That means it would take your skin 30 times longer to actually receive a sunburn than using nothing at all. So you can see that's really, really important. Of course, we always want to avoid sunburns altogether, but I just wanted to give you kind of an example for content. So next, before we really jump into everything, I want to explain a few terms that you've probably heard a lot. You may hear them, you may know them, you may not, but these are really important to know related to SPF. So I want to start with UV rays. UV rays, ultraviolet, that's what it stands for, ultraviolet rays, they are a type of energy, right, that come from the sun. Now, it's really important to know that they're invisible forms of light that you cannot see with your eyes. These are not the rays that you see coming through the clouds, completely invisible. By the way, these can also be reproduced in tanning beds. And yes, I will go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. Tanning bed rays are just as harmful as being out exposed without anything on your skin. There are 3 types of rays, but the good news is that only 2 of those reach the ground. So that's what we're going to talk about today, UVA and UVB. So let's talk about what they are and what the difference is. So UVA, ultraviolet A, is associated with skin aging. UVA, A for aging, right? So UVA rays that are coming from the sun, those are actually longer wavelengths. I'm going to kind of hold my arm up so you have an example, but it's a longer wavelength that actually comes from the sun. And when it hits your skin, it goes down into your epidermis and your dermis. So that ray, it's longer and it penetrates and goes right into your skin. And that's the one that's associated with aging. Ultraviolet B, UVAB, is associated with redness, kind of like the sunburn. So that is a shorter wavelength that comes from the sun, and that one only touches your skin surface, which makes sense, right? So UVA, A is for aging, UVB, B is for burning. So 2 very important terms to note, but it's also equally important to know that both types are proven to really contribute to the risk of skin cancer. And I know that's a very serious topic and something we always want to avoid, right? So UVA, UVB, really important, okay? Broad spectrum. Now, this is a term that I love hearing these 2 words, and I know you do too, because what this means is it means that the product, the sunscreen, has ingredients that are going to effectively protect against both UVA and UVB rays. So when you're looking at your sunscreens, your SPF, you really want to make sure that it says broad spectrum, because again, that's going to protect from UVA, UVB rays. Sometimes sunscreens don't say that. They'll just say, hey, protects against UVA, UVB. So as long as you know kind of the surround sound knowledge, just know that those are the terms you always want to look for. You really want that extra protection. It's not just enough for it to say SPF 30 and to not have that broad spectrum protection. Okay, so with Avon, and we're going to talk about our products in just a little while, I want you to know you can feel really good because you are fully protected with all of our SPF products because they are all broad spectrum. So before we go any further, I saw a question asking about why SPF is important. So there are a lot of reasons why SPF is important, but I've narrowed it down to kind of my top personal 3. Number 1, bottom line, and I just said this, it can help prevent skin cancer. Without going really deep into, all of the science about how that actually occurs, just know that those UV rays, when they are reaching, right, whether it's the top of your skin, whether it's being absorbed into your skin, those rays, they do a lot of things, and we're going to talk about that today, all of the damage. But one of the biggest things they can do is they can damage the DNA in your cells. And long of the short is that's the beginnings of skin cancer. So you definitely want to avoid that. The second most important reason, and listen, to me, it is vanity, but it prevents premature aging. I don't know almost anyone that's not like, hey, I want to just, prevent, I want to look as good as I can possibly look. So yes, you have the medical side of it, but also it's going to help to prevent premature aging. So when you are exposed, remember those UVA rays, aging, it's going to accelerate that aging process of your skin, and it does all the things. I mean, there isn't anything basically that the sun does not kind of hurt, right? So it's going to help cause things like fine lines, wrinkles, age spots, also known as dark spots, sunspots, rough texture, dull texture, uneven skin tone. I mean, I could really keep going. It does everything. Here's the other thing that it does. It's also known to break down collagen and elastin in your skin, and you probably are familiar with those terms. If not, just know that they are essential for maintaining kind of that youthful bounce and kind of firmness in your skin. So I don't think there's one thing that related to aging that the sun, those UVA rays, doesn't really affect. You know, another thing, just to kind of give another example about, you know, those UVA rays, you know, I told you that it's damaging, you know, kind of the DNA, it's damaging those cells. So in terms of, you know, kind of giving you a little bit of a picture, what those rays do is they dry your skin out. That's number one. So if any of you have ever been out in the sun, and listen, we've all had moments where we were not protected, let's be honest. Have you ever noticed that your skin just feels more depleted, more dehydrated? It's because those rays are coming in and they're sucking everything up, right? And what happens with that is that when it makes your skin dry, those UVA rays, it also kind of thickens that top layer of your skin, which, you know, again, can make your skin kind of feel rough. It can look uneven. You know, there's a reason sometimes after being out in the sun, you're like, whoa, I need to like go and exfoliate immediately. That's because the sun rays are doing that. That is slowing down your cell renewal. And that basically translates to all of the things we don't want, again, associated with the anti-aging. It also, if you've ever seen anyone that has skin that has kind of that leather-like texture, obviously it does make you look older. Most certainly that is a direct result, right, of, you know, that sun. So I'm just following some of our comments. And yes, Margie, I mean, I don't mean to be in your brain, but I'm glad I'm in your brain because this is a really good reason. Is the UVA for aging and B for burn. And Emily's just saying that yesterday you were at the pool and your skin felt so dry. I mean, obviously the chlorinated water, we're going to talk about pools, by the way, because I have some things to say about being out in the sun and around pools. But would that surprise you if I didn't have anything to say? Okay. Reason number 3. So again, we have 3 reasons. Number 1, prevents skin cancer. Number 2, it's the vanity part of it, but preventing all of the premature aging. And number 3, it may sound simplistic, but preventing sunburn. I don't know about you, but does anyone like to get a sunburn? No. Have any of you ever had a sunburn? Yes. I've had some really bad sunburns, especially when I was growing up. By the way, did you know that most sun damage occurs before the age of 18? Like, I mean, it's just a thing, right? So here's the thing behind sunburn. So, and I think this is kind of cool because, again, not that you need to take this information and go and talk about it, but it's really important just to know. And the next time you start to see your skin kind of get that flush or kind of get that redness, I promise you're going to think about me. So sunburn, it is the immediate reaction to excessive UVB. Remember, we've got the 2 rays, UVA, UVB. UVB rays, they're actually touching the top of your skin, and that is an immediate reaction. So obviously sunburns can range. They can cause, you know, redness, pain, sometimes blistering, a whole host of, you know, different types. But the moment you start to see your skin getting red, just know that that is because those UVB rays, they are trying to attack. Now, the good news is that you still can get a little bit of a flush when you have your sunscreen on. So you can feel good knowing that you're protected. If you do not have your sunscreen on, you need to pause and go get the sunscreen and make sure that you're applying it, right? I also want to note that regardless of skin type, certain products, medications, maybe a medical situation, they can also make your skin very highly sensitive to the sun. So otherwise, that another term is called photosensitivity. So if you've ever looked at a product and the product says, oh, you know, it prevents, you know, there's no photosensitivity, it means it's okay for daytime use. But there are some products that absolutely would promote photosensitivity, meaning your skin is likely to be a lot more sensitive. So things like retinol. If you've tried any of our retinol products, they always recommend that you use those in the evening. And that's because they are doing like really getting in there and doing some work and turning over, you know, kind of those dead skin cells, really helping to really, you know, do some work. And you really want to make sure that you're not exposing that beautiful, fresh new skin, right? I'm not talking about bakuchiol. Bakuchiol is a different form, but I'm talking about the straight retinol. Okay. All right, if you have any questions, again, feel free to drop those in the chat. And I'm glad that you're learning. We've got a lot more information. So let's talk about the three most common questions that I get asked about SPF. So I want to address those. Number one question is, are you sure I need SPF? I mean, JJ, listen, I might burn the first time, but then I tan. Or I also hear, well, I don't need it. I mean, do I look like, I need sunscreen? I have naturally dark skin and I've never burned in my entire life. Let me be very clear. Everyone needs SPF, including children over the age of 6 months. By the way, I will just have a quick little aside. If your children are younger than 6 months, it is recommended, obviously, that we always keep our babies, that precious skin, right, out of the direct sunlight, wear that protective clothing. But my personal recommendation is anytime you have children, please talk to your doctor, your healthcare provider. They will give you the right advice. But SPF is very important. For everyone else, so everyone means everyone, right? So even if you tan easily, even if you have that darker pigmentation in your skin absolutely can be damaged by that sun exposure, whether or not you burn. I am the type of person, by the way, that, especially when I was growing up, if I wasn't, necessarily using the SPF, my mom was pretty vigilant, but back then it was like SPF 2. And I won't even tell you what I did when I was a teenager. Okay, I'll tell you. I mixed baby oil and iodine. So, by the way, I'm really paying for that now. And I mean that literally and figuratively. But, here's the thing. I was the type that I would kind of get that first burn of the season, that redness. And then I would get just darker and darker and darker. And by the way, just because my skin was getting darker, it did not mean that my skin was more protected. So the bottom line is that a darker skin tone does not mean you are more protected. It's also never too late. I just want to kind of say that. I do get that question sometimes. People are like, well, I've lived almost my whole life and I've never used the SPF, so why start now? Well, the reason is because obviously you want to prevent further damage. You want to prevent, skin cancer can happen at any age, right? Any time. Okay, question number 2. What level of SPF should I use? So personally, I wear SPF 50. By the way, I am living proof. You can see my skin tone. This is my natural skin tone, by the way, that you can still get color. You can still get tan when you wear SPF. But according to the Skin Cancer Foundation, if you are inside most of the day, just for short intervals, if you have to pop out for just a moment in the sun, they recommend that you use an SPF of at least 15, and that can be an SPF or in a cosmetic product. However, if you spend any more time outdoors than that, especially when the sun is strongest, or maybe you live in an area where the sun is, strong all year long. I think about our friend Sue, who's moderating today. I know that she lives in a climate where it's warmer. So Sue is an example of someone that really needs to use that minimum of at least SPF 30 or higher, right? Now for me, of course, I'm using the SPF 50, but I want to tell you how I kind of interpret that, like the intervals, right? So for me, a short interval, what that means is walking to my mailbox. Now, let me clarify, if you live in an area where it's half a mile walk to your mailbox, no, that is not what I mean. But if you're just quickly walking to your mailbox, okay, that's a short interval, SPF 15. Longer would be something that I would categorize as taking a walk. Maybe you're riding your bike. Listen, if your neighbor, does anybody here have chatty neighbors? If your neighbor is super chatty and they grab hold of you and then they're talking, that's a longer interval, SPF 30. So just be safe. Obviously the decision is up to you, but I'm always going to choose SPF 50 even when I am indoors. Okay, the second part of that is, do I really have to apply all the time and how much? You know, I get a lot of comments, by the way, from my friends, from my family. You know, I live in a colder climate. You know, it's overcast out. JJ, I'm not even going outside. Like, why do I really need, you know, to use SPF? So the answer, we just talked about the why, but when? All year long. Winter, spring, summer, fall, indoors, outdoors, sunny, cloudy. By the way, did you know that when it is cloudy, ready for this? 80% of the sun's UV radiation still reaches the earth, which means it's reaching your skin, A and B, right? Have you ever been perplexed, or maybe you know someone that's like, I don't understand. Like the sun never even peaked out. Like, how in the world did I get, you know, did I get like a sunburn? How did my skin, you know, kind of react? It wasn't even hot, right? I see a question from Mina. Mina is asking, do we have to apply if we are at home? Yes, you do. Listen, I mean, maybe if you're in an area where there's no windows, but for me, you can see my light right now. I am in front of a window. And so absolutely, we're going to talk about that UV radiation. It does come through those windows. So yes, I always just want to be safe and make sure that you're applying, right? And yes, Jessica's saying, so indirect sunlight is still necessary. Absolutely. Speaking of which, that is a great segue, Jessica, into the next thing that I want to talk about, because someone was just talking about being at the pool and talking about, you know, their skin feeling dry. So here's the deal. I would make sure personally that I would amp up the SPF anytime you are somewhere with a reflection. So the water, whether it's the beach, the lake, the pool, the river. Let me give you an example. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she went on a little trip with her friends a couple of weeks ago. And she has fair skin. She's been brought up. She knows all of the rules of SPF, right? And so she was there. I'm not there. So she applies all of her SPF. Well, she doesn't do her back, but she thinks, oh, it's not really a big deal because they went to the pool. She was sitting under an umbrella in full shade. She falls asleep. And I bet you can guess what happened. Her back was seared. And she was like, said it was so painful, you know, and she was like, I don't understand. I was in the shade. Is the thing is that she may have been in the shade. She may have been in the umbrella, but how did those rays reach her? It's because they were hitting the water and they were bouncing right over to her. So absolutely, you definitely want to make sure you amp it up. Another thing is snow skiing. I know we don't think about that a lot. Even though it's cold, that sun, it is still in action. And the snow is just like water. It's going to reflect and it's going to bounce all of that sunlight. Planes, trains, automobiles, you're kind of getting my drift, right? Do not forget your hands. By the way, the first places that we see aging are hands, neck, and eyes, because they have really thin skin. So make sure you're always protecting those hands. Let me just tell you really quickly. I want to talk about airplanes for a second. I used to spend a lot of time on planes, and I used to just love sitting in the window seats. I just loved the scenery, loved looking at everything. And then several years ago, I read some really incredible statistics, and I'm not going to share the statistics here, but let me tell you why I actually switched my seats to aisle seats. So it is no surprise that airplane windows, or windows in general, the majority of those, they don't completely block UV rays, right? But in particular, UVA rays, the aging rays. Those are the ones that penetrate, remember, go deeper into your skin. They're associated with aging. So here's the deal. If you're sitting by a window, that exposure can be even more significant. But if that is not enough, when you are at higher altitudes, and you are if you're in a plane, the exposure to UV radiation is greater because the atmosphere is thinner. So remember, those rays, they're coming down to the earth, and you're up above and you don't have as much. So again, I mean, oh my goodness. So next time you fly, is anybody going to be moving their window seat? to the aisle. By the way, I always use SPF every time. It doesn't matter really where I'm sitting on the plane, but the window in particular. And I will say, I am, look, we're all real life, so if you don't want to sacrifice that beautiful view, sometimes it's just worth it. Just make sure that you're diligent, apply that extra SPF. Okay. Great comments. Okay, indirect in the car, absolutely, Misty. Bonnie, SPF that is made for face still irritates my eyes when I sweat. Any suggestions? Bonnie, what I would say is I might actually switch, and I don't know the type of SPF that you've been trying. Obviously, we don't want to put SPF right in our eye area, but I know what you're talking about when you're applying it. All of our products do migrate. So you might benefit from trying a mineral version of the SPF. And if that doesn't work, there are products out there that have other forms in how they deliver powders, sprays. So that might be an option if it's still burning your eyes. Okay, let's talk about how much SPF to apply. This one is always eye-opening for every single person. They're like, get out of here, but it is true. And yes, Avon has a mineral sunscreen that we are going to talk about. The Skin Cancer Foundation, this is where I always get all of my facts. By the way, that is a public site. I welcome you to go and check that out. They have some really incredible information. But the Skin Cancer Foundation advises to use 1 ounce for your body, which is basically the equivalent to a shot glass full. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not getting out a measuring cup. I'm not taking a shot glass, to kind of fill it up to see how much, SPF that I really need. So here's my tip. For your face, basically what you would want to do, let me take off my rings. By the way, I always take off my jewelry when I am applying my SPF. So and this isn't just my rule, this is out there, but for your face, basically it's 0.4 ounces, but again, who's really gonna measure that? So it's a 2-finger rule. So your pointer and your middle finger, and you wanna take it and just line it. Give yourself a healthy amount, okay? See that? That is what they say would be the perfect amount for your face. But me in particular, I do 3. Let me tell you why. Because 3 fingers. I do 2 for my face and I do the 3rd one for my neck. So basically what I will do, and I'm not going to do it here because I have makeup on, but I would take it and I would tap and tap, 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 tap. So basically I'm picking up the SPF and I'm putting it in all of the places. I'm making sure that I cover everything on my face. Of course, I'm avoiding the direct eye area, but really don't forget, you've also got to get, kind of the back of the ears, the hairline, the back of your neck. So there are a lot of things. So that's kind of the first thing that I do. And I love Misty is saying that she uses 3 fingers too. It's just a little tip that really helps. And again, that's not my personal tip, but it's a really good one for my body. And again, this is just me. So let me take this arm. I don't have anything on it. So what I do for basically every single area is I do exactly the same thing. I literally will go up and you can see I just, not a perfect line, but I do the line. And then of course, it's going to give me the perfect amount. So I do that for my arms, my legs, everywhere. And by the way, look how quickly that absorbed. It smells really good as well. So yeah, so that's just basically how much to apply. By the way, here's a little fun fact. And when I say that, it's always kind of eye-opening. If your sunscreen is 8 ounces, then if you were in the sun for full days, it should only last you 8 days. Now, guess how much is in this? 1.7. So take that and imagine 8 ounces, and that is how much sunscreen that you should be using. So yeah, so little tips there. I love the SPF. Yes, Jessica, every little tip helps. And that's just for me personally, then I'm not really having to worry about, did I get the right amount? And by the way, I always just apply my SPF before I get dressed, just in case, if I'm out and I decide to remove a layer or two, I just know that I'm protected. And the good news, we're going to talk about this, remember, in just a few minutes with our products, is that these products, Solair in particular, they're also skincare products. So I love the fact that I'm protecting my skin and I'm giving my skin some goodness, right, with those skincare ingredients as well. And yes, absolutely, Caribbean Cooper. I saw that you used SPF 30. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And definitely make sure that you've got that nice supply of your SPF for sure. Okay, so now let's talk about how long does your bottle of sunscreen last? So maybe if you feel comfortable, drop in the comments, tell me. Now, I've already given you kind of the inside tip at this point. But so let's talk about the life of sunscreen. Let's talk about, is it okay to use it after the expiration date? So question, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, but has any of you, like, have you ever cleaned out a cabinet? Maybe you found sunscreen that was, not opened at all. Maybe it was gently used, barely used at all. And you thought, you know what, this is fine. Oh my gosh, like, this is great. Absolutely. I know, like, we've all done it, right? I mean, like, let's, and including me, let's be truthful, right? But here's the thing. The reality is that sunscreen, and just like other skincare products, they lose effectiveness over time. I've had people tell me, one in particular, my husband, perhaps, I can't be responsible for what he has out in the garage. I try to have a nice sunscreen supply available for him, but I can't control what he does. But there was a situation, a few months ago where, he was like, I don't understand. How did, my neckline, he was out doing some things. I don't understand. How did I get burnt? It's not warm out. The sun wasn't out. Remember, it doesn't have to be. It's all about that UV radiation. I don't know why I got burnt. And I was like, well, did you apply anything? Of course, that's the first question. And he was like, yeah, I did. And I was like, let me see it. And I bet you can guess. It was an old sunscreen for him, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. So the reality is that he put something on, but it had lost its effectiveness. So it's just like putting on nothing. So you're just kind of wasting your time, right? So the other thing that, I would say is that if you find a sunscreen and you don't know how long you've had it, I would say you probably had it too long. The typical sunscreen is good for about 3 years. But like with any skincare product, if you've had it that long and you have been using it, you're probably not using it on a regular basis, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. This is a product that I believe needs to be replenished often. When you are buying SPF, go ahead and buy a few of them, buy several, keep extras handy. I have some downstairs. I have them everywhere in our car. I have them, obviously when I'm putting, in my bathroom, I have them here. So I just want to make sure I'm always giving myself an option to make sure that I am protected. And again, regardless of your climate or the time of year. By the way, I do want to give one little note. Have any of you seen viral videos on TikTok or some of these other big social platforms? I guess there are influencers now that are making their own SPF. 2 words, just don't. Just don't. Dermatologists, they've already weighed in. They've confirmed it is not a good idea. If you want to go just for curiosity and check out some of those videos, you can, but please just don't. I won't go into the details, but you can see all of the dermatologists weigh in. Let us do the work for you. And speaking of which, let's talk. It's time, right? We've talked about a lot of facts. Let's talk about these products. So today I actually want to highlight the Avon Solair collection. This launched a few years ago with our company, and it is such an important collection. Each one of these products that we're going to talk about today, there are 3. They all provide maximum SPF protection, SPF 50. They're all broad spectrum. but they also feature skincare ingredients. I mentioned that as well a few minutes ago. So to me, it's the best of both worlds. You're getting your skin protected, but you're also keeping it soft, smooth, hydrated. So best of both worlds. And I think a must for every single person's daily routine. And yes, Elizabeth, I'm glad that your husband loves it. Again, it does not matter. SPF is a product that everyone should be using. So let's talk about this one first. So this is Solair. This is our everyday face protection. So you can see it is the face, and it has this really pretty little blue top. So again, this is SPF 50. This is suitable for all skin types, including sensitive skin. When I say that it means it's including sensitive skin, it means that the products have been tested. Now, you'll always hear me say the same thing, and that is if you have sensitive skin, you know your skin better than anyone. Do a patch test or always check with your dermatologist or healthcare provider if you really have questions, okay? So this is a very creamy lotion-like formula. I just showed you that just a moment ago. It blends beautifully, very even. You saw this is the one that I used. There's no white cast, which is very common when you have a chemical-based sunscreen. It's hypoallergenic, it's dermatologist tested. I love the fact that it has a host of really amazing skincare ingredients, everything from niacinamide, it has panthenol, nutmeg extract, but the notable one for me is that there is paenol and peony extract, just like the flower. And what they do together is they actually help control the excess production of melanin, right, in your skin. And melanin can actually lead to that pigmentation. So really great products formulated without oxybenzone, octinoxate. So just a few little details. This one, it says it's for the face. I personally love to use it everywhere because it's really nice. It's nice and hydrating without being too much. So this is the one that I am crushing on at the moment. But for those of you that are like, okay, that's nice, but I want something a little bit lighter, don't worry, we have you covered, pun intended. So we have SPF, this is Solair, this is SPF 50, and you can see that this is face and body. It has all of the same benefits as the face, but this is a thinner formula. With this one in particular, you are going to want to shake it up a little bit. You'll hear it needs a little bit of a shake because it is lighter weight. And let me show you. Let me take off my bracelets. All right. So let me show you this one. You're going to see it is so light. Do you see that? I mean, it comes out almost like water. And you see how it immediately starts moving on my skin. So very, very lightweight. Love this. Layers great with everything. I know there are a lot of fans who really love to use this. They'll apply all of their skincare, and then this is still thin enough that they can apply that and then follow with their makeup. Jessica, yes, I see that you love that under your makeup as well. So really great option for your face and body. So they both basically have the same benefits, but one is a little bit creamier. And then of course, one has kind of a water-like texture. So really beautiful. Okay, third, we also have a mineral option. I have an announcement to make, by the way. For any of our friends in Canada that may be joining us live or on replay, I have an exciting announcement for you. So recently you have seen that you have Solair Face and Face and Body. Those are available on avon.ca. But guess what? Mineral Solair, she's getting ready to launch. So be on the lookout. It is coming any day now if it's not already there. So really love the fact that we have a mineral option. Again, SPF 50, great for your face and body. This one does not have a white cast either. So let me show you what this one looks like. So a little bit, not quite as bright white, but we don't care about the color, right? It's about the protection. So I'm massaging it in, and then look, no white cast. Really, really nice. I'm trying to, that's the light on my hand. Okay, no white cast, really, really nice. This also is water resistant for up to 40 minutes. So this one is going to be a really great option for immediate protection. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. I want to go a little bit deeper into our mineral sunscreens. It means there's no extra time that is needed for that absorption. And I should mention that with our mineral version, this is also reef friendly, it's PABA, alcohol free, so all of the things. Now, Sue is actually going to pull up a slide because we're going to chat about those mineral and chemical sunscreens. But first, I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of the three products that we just talked about. If you want to take, kind of a screenshot of this or take an image, it's a really great, I think, very easy little reference tool where it just shows the three products, again, all under Solair that we absolutely love. And you can see the quick benefits of those. Okay. So, and we'll leave that up for just a moment and we'll move to the next slide in just a second. But sometimes there can be a little bit of confusion between mineral and chemical sunscreens and which is better. Have any of you ever wondered yourself, just because it says chemical, does that mean it's not as good, right? Or that it's somehow harmful. So I can go ahead and, bust two myths for you. Myth number one is that mineral is better than chemical. That is not true. There's also another myth that kind of floats around probably more than anything, and that is that somehow a mineral sunscreen is natural or that it's organic. That's also not true. So I just wanted to kind of share that. So let's talk about the benefits and talk about the differences between mineral and chemical. And Nina is up to date on her SPF knowledge. I love this. Mineral does reflect, and we're going to talk about that. So mineral, you may also hear this called physical sunscreen. And that's because the ingredients, right? The ingredients are minerals, hence the name mineral. They actually sit on your skin's surface. And what they do is they physically prevent those UV rays, UVA, UVB, from penetrating into your skin. So kind of, I always like to give examples. So what I think about is when I apply my mineral SPF, I always like to think when the sun is coming down, it's like it's a million little mirrors, right? And it's bouncing the rays back. It's like, not today. It's acting kind of as a shield. So it's a physical. So those rays are not able to penetrate through that mineral sunscreen. So a physical blocker, basically. Chemical, really high level. What chemical does is it actually goes into your skin. So when you apply it, the chemical actually is going to be absorbed into your skin. And when those rays, remember UVA, the aging, when it comes and it's going deeper into your skin, what the chemical sunscreen does is it's absorbing those UV rays kind of like a sponge, and then it's converting them into non-damaging heat and it's releasing them, right? So it's kind of saying not today as well. So if you just kind of, I always like to kind of break it down. Mineral, it's going to block and bounce the rays away, and chemical is going to absorb and release it. So both of these, if they're both really great options, it's just really a personal preference. In terms of white cast, I have to say formulas have come a really long way. Mineral sunscreen, especially back, when I was, younger and when it was first coming out, it was heavy. And it not only left a white cast, I mean, you would have, does anybody remember the white nose, right? The pure block. And that's because it's actually creating a shield. But the great news is that, with a lot of formulations, especially with Solair, there is no white cast. So you can feel really good knowing that. And of course, chemical sunscreen, the other two, they fully absorb, they're getting to work inside. So there's absolutely no white cast with those as well. Okay, in terms of the application, when you apply mineral, remember, because that is acting as a shield, that is immediate protection and you do not need to wait. So if you're trying to make a decision of which one is best for you, especially if you have children, I'm going to guess that maybe mineral is the way to go, because if you're like, I got to get out the door, they can't wait, they got to go, take that mineral, apply it, because it's that immediate shield of protection. Chemical, and again, I know it sounds weird to say that, but it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's going to be absorbed, and you really want to get the fullest benefit. And you basically want to make sure that you're applying that, at least 30 minutes if you can, to make sure that it's fully absorbed. I actually do mine as part of my skincare routine in the morning. And so I'm not running out the door immediately. So it's a really great option for me on days that I know that I'm just going to wash my face and I'm going to go quick. Then I will reach for my mineral. So I do make sure that I always have both options. Okay, last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap the class today. By the way, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've learned some little tidbits. Is I want to kind of talk about a last, and this is a big one, a common misconception. So sometimes people think that if SPF is ideal, then SPF 70 or SPF 100, those must be way better. Have any of you ever seen SPF 70, 75, 100 out in the marketplace? So I want to kind of break it down for you. Technically, yes, they do offer slightly more protection, but the difference is so nominal. When I tell you the facts, you're going to be like, wait, what? Okay. SPF 50 blocks 98% of UVB rays. Remember, those are the burning rays. Okay, great. It blocks 98%. SPF 70, guess how much it blocks? 98.6. SPF 100 blocks 99%. There is literally between SPF 50 and SPF 100, and these are scientific facts. This isn't just me saying this. Just so you know, those are scientific facts. There is literally 1% difference. So my advice is don't waste the extra money on a higher SPF, but spend it on buying more SPF. Go ahead, like I said, when you're getting the SPF, and get yourself a few of those. Claudine has a really great question that I want to address. Is there a special soap to wash off mineral sunscreen? You may think, Claudine, that you may need something because it's really heavy, but it's actually not a heavy, type of sunscreen, especially with our Solair. And no, the only thing you need to do is wash it off with your soap and water, whatever you prefer. I will say that just like with anything, if you are out, after a long day, you've applied your SPF, you definitely always want to make sure that you're just rinsing it off the sides. You just want to make sure you're giving your, skin, a fresh sleep, if you will. I don't want to always get in bed and have SPF on me. So I hope that really helped with that. And yes, I know there's not much difference. SPF 50, again, blocks 98% of your UVB rays, and SPF 100 blocks a whole grand total of 99%. Now, all of that to be said, we really, I do want to say that I know I've been harping on the fact that, SPF is so critical. Obviously, we've talked about all of the reasons, but with that, I do want you to get outside. I do want you to enjoy your time outdoors. It's important to spend time outdoors, enjoy the weather, get that sunny vitamin D. There's a million things, that it just feels good. It helps with your mood. I just want to make sure that you're doing it in a very sun smart way. And with these tips today, there are a lot of ways, to enjoy all of your time. So with that, that wraps this session of our next masterclass. I hope that you learned some helpful information and tips. And until next time, be sure, as always, to keep your skin protected, healthy, and I promise it will be very happy. I'll see you all very soon. Have a great day.